In a quiet suburban street, a routine traffic stop was about to turn into a shocking spectacle, one that would expose arrogance, racism, and the dangerous assumption that some people are powerless. What happened next left witnesses stunned and would set off a chain of events no one could forget. Please comment where you are watching us from, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notification. The sun hung low over the city streets as Officer Daniels, a seasoned but notoriously arrogant cop, pulled over a sleek black SUV. His badge gleamed in the late afternoon light, but so did the pride and prejudice behind it. The driver, a calm black woman in her early 30s, adjusted her rear-view mirror. Her name was Mariah Johnson. She was a nurse, always on the go, and today she had just finished a long shift at the local hospital. Little did Officer Daniels know, this routine stop would unravel his entire world. License and registration, Daniels barked, leaning into the car window. His tone was sharp, dismissive, and condescending. Mariah handed over her documents politely. "Good afternoon, officer. Is there a problem?" Daniels snorted, glancing over her paperwork as if it were a burden. "You were speeding. Don't play innocent. I see this all the time." Mariah stayed composed. "I might have been going a little over, but I wasn't endangering anyone." Daniels laughed, a harsh, cruel sound. "Spare me the lecture. You people always act like rules don't apply to you." Mariah's eyes narrowed slightly. She didn't flinch. She was used to people underestimating her, though she hadn't expected this level of hostility. Daniel stepped closer, his height towering over her, his uniform a shield for his arrogance. "You know what? I'm tired of letting people like you slip by," he sneered. "You think because you smile, no one notices what you really are?" Mariah's hand instinctively went to her purse. She stayed calm, her voice steady. "Officer, I'm not sure what you mean." Daniel smirked and, in a shocking display, slapped her across the face. The sound echoed against the asphalt. Witnesses gasped. A few people began recording on their phones. "You see? You act like you're above the law, but I'll remind you out here you're nothing." Daniel shouted. Mariah's cheek stung, but her composure didn't break. She slowly touched her face, giving him a look that froze him in place for a fraction of a second, though he didn't recognize it yet. Daniels, fueled by ignorance and arrogance, didn't stop. He continued berating her in front of passers-by, making pointed racial remarks, humiliating her in the public square. "This is exactly why I don't like people like you on my streets. Think you're better than everyone else? Think again." The tension escalated as Mariah's patience held firm, a silent storm behind her eyes. Witnesses whispered, recording the incident, but Daniels only grew bolder. "You know what? You should be grateful I'm even giving you a warning," he snapped. "Otherwise, you'd be in cuffs already. Don't think your kind is untouchable." Mariah finally spoke, her voice cutting through his arrogance like a knife. "Officer, you really don't know who you're dealing with, do you?" Daniels laughed, full of cruelty and ignorance. "Oh, I know exactly who you are. Another entitled black woman thinking she owns the world." At this point, a small crowd had gathered. Some tried to intervene. Others just watched, captivated by the spectacle of unchecked power and fear. Mariah's hand slowly rose to her shoulder bag, where her ID glimmered under the sunlight. The crowd's murmur grew louder as she pulled it out, and Daniels' eyes widened in disbelief. "Officer Daniels," she said calmly, almost ceremoniously, "I'm Mariah Johnson, daughter of Governor Samuel Johnson." Time seemed to freeze. A ripple of shock went through the crowd. Daniels' face drained of color. The arrogance, the cruelty, the smug superiority, it all vanished in an instant. You're the governor's daughter?" he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Mariah's eyes held fire. "Yes, and now, you're going to face the consequences for what you just did." Within minutes, the situation escalated further. Passers-by called in complaints, some showing the recordings from their phones. The department received multiple reports. Higher authorities were alerted. Daniels, who had spent years abusing power and preying on those he assumed were powerless, suddenly realized how fragile his position was. His superiors arrived, stern and unyielding. "You're under suspension, effective immediately," one officer said firmly. "You assaulted a citizen, And in this case, you've also endangered the reputation of this department. Daniels tried to argue, tried to justify himself, but it was useless. His arrogance crumbled, leaving nothing but the bitter taste of shame and public humiliation. Mariah remained calm as the officers escorted Daniels away. Her voice carried across the crowd. Power should never be abused. Racism and cruelty have consequences. No matter how safe someone thinks they are behind a badge, justice is not optional, it is inevitable. The crowd erupted in applause, not just for her bravery, but for the lesson she had just delivered, that dignity and authority are earned, not assumed, and that no one is truly powerless. Just as the crowd began to disperse, Mariah received a call. Her expression hardened. She didn't speak, but her silence was enough to alert the nearby officer. The camera pans to her SUV as she opens the door, stepping inside. A shadowy figure watches from across the street, phone in hand. But this was only the beginning. Someone was watching, and they didn't like what they saw. Mariah sat in her SUV, phone pressed to her ear. Her expression was serious, almost unreadable. Across the street, a shadowy figure disappeared into an alley, unnoticed by the dispersing crowd. "Governor," she whispered, "we might have a bigger problem than just one bad cop." Her father's voice came calm but firm. "Explain." Mariah outlined what she had seen. The slap, the recordings, the arrogant, dangerous officer. But then she mentioned the stranger watching someone clearly recording, possibly sending it to someone with malicious intent. Her father's jaw tightened. "Keep your location secure. And don't confront anyone alone." Mariah's fingers tightened on the wheel. She knew her father's position protected her, but it wouldn't stop the more cunning people from exploiting the chaos. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in the precinct, suspended and furious. His ego bruised, he replayed the incident in his mind, blaming everyone but himself. "Who would have thought," he muttered, "the governor's daughter of all people." But Daniels wasn't one to accept defeat quietly. He began plotting a way to reclaim his power, to save face, and to humiliate Mariah once again. He started contacting shady acquaintances, men who owed him favors, men willing to bend rules for a price. Arrogance has a way of attracting trouble, and Daniel's anger was only making him reckless. The next morning, Mariah returned to her job at the hospital, attempting to maintain a sense of normalcy. But whispers followed her. Eyes lingered a little too long. Someone had recognized her. Suddenly, a young nurse approached, holding a phone. "Mariah, you need to see this." On the screen was a blurry image of Daniels, smirking with a group of men in a parking lot. The caption read, "He's not done yet. Neither is she." Mariah's stomach tightened. She realized this wasn't just about humiliation or arrogance. It was about intimidation, and possibly worse. Mariah contacted her father immediately. Governor Johnson mobilized resources discreetly. Internal affairs, trusted law enforcement allies, and surveillance teams. Mariah also decided to take matters into her own hands, but carefully. Using her own intelligence, experience in handling emergencies at the hospital, and connections, she began gathering evidence. Her goal was not revenge, but public, undeniable justice. Power and privilege are tempting to some, but true authority comes from responsibility and courage. Daniels, emboldened by his network, made a fatal mistake. He attempted to plant false evidence against Mariah, hoping to frame her for misconduct and discredit her publicly. He returned to the same suburban street, where he had humiliated her before, thinking the location was familiar and advantageous. But Mariah had anticipated this. Security cameras, her own strategic positioning, and witnesses ensured that everything was documented. As Daniels tried to execute his plan, he was confronted not by one person, but by a coordinated presence. Undercover officers, hospital staff who had alerted authorities, and members of community who had witnessed a previous incident. Mariah stepped forward, calm and authoritative. "Officer Daniels," she said, her voice carrying through the quiet street. "This is over. Your actions, your arrogance, and your crimes are all on record. There's no hiding now." The officers moved in, confiscating evidence and securing Daniels. He struggled, tried to shout over the crowd, but every step he took was recorded, every word captured. Witnesses watched in awe as the once arrogant cop realized that public power does not equal immunity. Mariah addressed the crowd, her tone steady and resolute. Let this be a warning. Abuse of power, racism, and cruelty have consequences. We may not always see justice immediately, but truth has a way of coming to light. And when it does, those who think they're untouchable will learn exactly what it means to answer for their actions. The crowd erupted in applause, inspired not just by her courage, but by the methodical way she protected herself and held Daniels accountable. As the crowd dispersed, Mariah returned to her SUV. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from an unknown number. You're good. Too good. But some things in this city are bigger than even your father. Watch your back. Mariah's expression hardened. She pocketed her phone and started the engine. The camera pans across the empty street, lingering on a shadowed figure in the distance, watching her every move. Mariah's SUV rolled slowly through the city streets, her mind racing. The anonymous message from the night before had unsettled her. Whoever sent it clearly had resources and knowledge of her movements. She parked near a quiet cafe, hoping to blend in, but her instincts were sharp. Every shadow, every movement drew her attention. She noticed a man sitting across the street, pretending to read a newspaper. Something about his posture made her uneasy. Her phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. You can't protect everyone. Some secrets are too dangerous. Watch your next move. Mariah's jaw tightened. She knew she couldn't handle this alone. It was time to call in reinforcements, but carefully. Back at the governor's mansion, Governor Johnson coordinated with trusted law enforcement allies. He assigned a special task force to monitor Mariah's situation discreetly. They confirmed that Daniels had been in contact with a network of corrupt officers and shadowy figures with political agendas. Mariah, meanwhile, contacted a former CIA operative friend of the family. His name was Marcus Hale, sharp, disciplined, and discreet. Marcus had a reputation for solving problems that no one else could touch. Mariah, he said, voice calm but serious. This isn't just about a cop anymore. Someone is trying to manipulate power, using you as leverage. We need to be strategic. Every move must be calculated. Mariah nodded. I'm ready. Let's end this before it gets worse. Officer Daniels, humiliated but defiant, had escalated his plans. He began threatening witnesses, trying to intimidate anyone who could testify against him. But every attempt backfired, thanks to Mariah's foresight and a network of allies watching him. Desperation can drive people to reckless actions, and Daniels' arrogance blinded him to the trap that was already closing. Daniels planned one final public confrontation, hoping to regain control and intimidate Mariah into submission. He chose the same park where he had first slapped her, a place familiar, a stage for what he thought would be his comeback. Mariah arrived at the park, calm and composed. Her security detail and Marcus Hale were already in position, hidden from view. The park was busy with families and joggers, a perfect cover for observation. Daniels appeared, flanked by two men, his expression a mix of anger and fear. Mariah Johnson, he shouted. You think you can humiliate me and get away with it? Mariah stepped forward, holding her head high. Officer Daniels, this isn't about humiliation. It's about justice. And you've already lost. Daniels lunged, but before he could act, Marcus and the security team moved in. They restrained him swiftly, using minimal force, but making it clear he was powerless. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the man who had once radiated arrogance and cruelty was now being subdued completely. As Daniels was taken away, Marcus pulled Mariah aside. This isn't over. Daniels was just a pawn. There's a bigger force behind this, someone with influence over politics, law enforcement, and media. They want to control the narrative and you. Mariah's eyes widened. The stakes were higher than she imagined. Her father's political position made her a target. And now it was clear that the danger was no longer limited to a single corrupt cop. Mariah Johnson had won small victories, but the real battle was just beginning. And in a city built on secrets and power, nothing and no one was truly safe. Back at her apartment, Mariah reviewed surveillance footage collected from the park. In the corner of one frame, a hooded figure lurked, recording everything. Their faces were obscured, but their intent was clear. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a cryptic message. You've won the battles, but the war belongs to us. Watch your next step, Mariah Johnson. The city doesn't forgive mistakes. Mariah turned off her phone and looked out the window. The city skyline stretched before her, peaceful on the surface but hiding dark currents beneath. The victories of today could become the dangers of tomorrow. Mariah Johnson had survived humiliation, threats, and corruption, but the shadow looming over her was growing stronger. And when it struck, no one would be ready. Yeah, indeed. Part 1. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on notification. Thanks for watching.